to be online with you tonight. Thanks for all the A's there. It's just great to know there's somebody out there. I have to say, of all the things I've done in my Clean Easy career, doing a webinar is probably about the most scary. Anyway, a little bit of background. Andy's already given you. Thanks very much for the sort of build up there, Andy. Much appreciated. I'm just an ordinary guy, and I know we're going to have online tonight established distributors. Many of you I know from the guest list I can see. I guess we're going to have a lot of people who are fairly new to the industry and fairly new to Clean Easy, and hopefully we got some people looking in tonight as well, people who are just evaluating this opportunity. And what I want to try and do is give something to all of you tonight and give you a little bit of food for thought, if nothing else. If you are looking at this tonight with a view to considering getting involved with our company, let me just say this. Whatever baggage you've got, whatever misconceptions you might have or preconceptions, just for the next 30 minutes, just put them on one side. You know, if you want to pick them up again at the end of the webinar, that's absolutely fine by me. But I want to share with you what I saw. I want to share with you what we've done with the opportunity, and just a little bit about what the opportunity has given us. My background is, listen, I'm just an ordinary guy. I'm not highly educated. I left school with 1 or 2 CSEs and a few O-levels, nothing spectacular. And then I joined a local timber company as a timber trainee, and I knew within the first day that I'd made a really bad decision. I really hated it. Subsequently, I got into retail, worked for a fabulous high street company called W.H. Smith. Or everybody's shortening their names now, aren't they? It's WHS these days. And then I got my dream job by chatting to the EMI rep one day. He told me he was leaving. Cut a long story short, I got into his shoes. And to a certain extent, working for EMI, as I did for many years, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a while, was a catalyst for me ultimately getting into Clean Easy, although I didn't realise it at the time. One day at one of our dinners at EMI, I was sat next to a guy I didn't know. He was from the accounts department, and he was telling me that he looked after royalties. And we were having a bit of a chat about that, and he told me that he looked after A and B in the alphabet, which amused me. And I said to him, well, what do you do kind of, you know, for the rest of the week? And he said, oh, no, you don't understand. He said, A and B, the Beatles. The Beatles is really EMI's insurance policy, and I look after the royalty payments of 6-figure checks for all the surviving guys. And I got to thinking, particularly then, and it's quite funny doing this webinar tonight because there's so much news about, because it was 50 years ago to this week that Please Please Me was recorded at Abbey Road Studios. These guys laid down 11 tracks in 12 hours, the Fab Four, and the rest is history. And he was telling me that these guys are getting paid all of this money today for the work that they did years and years and years ago. Every time they got an airplay, every time they got an album sale, and in today's world it would be every time they get a download as well. There was one problem for me. The concept of royalty income really excited me. The problem was I didn't have any talent, certainly not musically, that's for sure. So that all came to relevance a little bit later in my life, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. I live with my gorgeous wife Fiona and my absolutely adorable dog Stanley, and I know a lot of you wanted Stanley to be on tonight. We might arrange that before the end of the evening, although I think it could be chaos. But I really just want to say to you that I love every day. I love everything that I do. I have a fantastic life, and I feel very, very privileged. And so I want to share some thoughts with you tonight, and initially I want to talk about our industry, and I want to perhaps give you a little bit of what we call a paradigm shift, and perhaps a change of perception. So when you start out in a business like this, it will always start with you. And I want to try and help you understand the power of network marketing. I mean, Clean Easy is a unique model in the business, I believe, because you can join Clean Easy and you can just work with the catalogs and you can make some very good money. But our industry and our business model is about network marketing, and that's really where it sits at, and that's what I want to talk about tonight. And in a business like this, it will always start with you. You're at the top of your business. You're not at the bottom of anybody else's, and I really want you to understand that. It's such an important point. It starts with you. You will always be at the top of your own business. But there are, of course, lots of people and around you and above you and surrounding you who will help you and support you and coach you and guide you in your business. So here's an idea. You've got into the business, and with the help of the person who introduced you, you go off and you find two people. Now, finding them isn't what it's all about. In fact, finding them is where it starts. I always say to people, you know, when you sponsor someone into the opportunity, your work is just beginning. You've found them, but now you've got to have a duty of care, you've got to coach them, you've got to work with them, and you've got to help them to get what they want. And one of the keys in this business is to take the focus off yourself and help your team get what they want. Because, you know, guys, if you help enough people get what they want, A, they'll stick with you, they'll stick with the opportunity, and B, Clean Easy will give you what you want. Now, if we were doing this in a home environment tonight, and I won't get the chat going for this because it's not too complex, but I'd be getting people to shout out their answers, because you've now found and sponsored two people into the opportunity. And let's use two as the multiplier. What I mean by that is you're going to teach your two to find two themselves. So I'll help you with the difficult ones. 2 times 2 is, well, you can see it up there, 4. So you've now got 4 people on the second level of your business. And what we're going to do is we're going to teach those 4 to find 2 each. So you're going to have 8. We'll teach those 8 to find 2, which will give you 16. We'll teach those 16 to find 2, which is 32. And you will now have a team total of 63 distributors. That's yourself and 62 others. But the power of this business model is you only found 2. You found 2, you worked with them, you coached them, and you taught them a simple system. I hope you're all following me where I'm at now. Now, again, I put a hands up around the room if we were in a smaller meeting environment. I say, who'd like a team of 63? And for those of you just starting out in the business, you'd probably be very excited to have a team of 63 distributors. And why wouldn't you? So let's have a look at it a step further. Here's you again. Remember, I said you'll always be at the top of your business, but this time, instead of finding 2, let's think about finding 3. Now, in today's environment, how difficult do you think it would be to find 3 people who would like to make some extra income in their spare time? I mean, do you think there's anybody apart from the 390 of us on this call tonight who might be interested in making an extra income? Do you know what? I reckon just about everyone. So we find 3, and now let's use 3 as our multiplying factor. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach 3 to find 3 each, and that'll give you 9. We're going to teach those 9 to go out and find 3 each. That's 27. We'll teach them to find 3 each. That's 81. And we'll teach those 81 to find 3 each. That's 243 people. In total, if you add all of those together, including yourself, you've now got a team of 364 distributors. Now, who'd like a team of 364? Which of those 2 business models would you prefer? It's a rhetorical question. You don't need to answer that one. So what's the difference between those 2 businesses? And I hear you shout 301. Don't know why that 1's gone off, but that doesn't matter. 301. But what's the real difference? The real difference is just that 1 at the beginning, the difference between 2 and 3. And that's a very powerful concept I want you to understand in this business. By just increasing the numbers a little bit at the beginning, the bottom line gets significantly bigger. So let's take that a step further. Here's what we teach in our business. Again, it starts with you, the top of your business. And you've got to go out and find just 5 excited people who are passionate about making a difference to their lives and improving their income situation. And I like this one because the maths is easy. We're going to teach those 5 people that you've introduced, you're going to teach them to go out with your help and find 5 each. That'll give you 25. We'll teach 25 to find 5, that's 125. Teach them to find 5, that's 625. We'll teach them to find 5, that's 3,125. And now in your organization, you've got 3,906 people. Who'd like an organization with 3,906 in it? Wow, that would be pretty special. You see, the real difference between the first illustration and the last is only 3. It's just 3 people. But have a look at that bottom line figure, and there you'll see the power of what we call exponential growth, the compound effect. So let's just take that a step further. Who would like that team of 3,906 distributors? Well, I would. I'd absolutely love to have a team that size. We're working on it. We call it work in progress. Now, if I were again sort of talking around with everyone in the room, or if we took the chat off, which we haven't really got the time to do, my question would be, how many hours a week are you going to put into your Clean Easy business? How many hours a week? A lot of people are part-time. You're working around full-time careers, you're working around families, you're working around social commitments and everything else that's going on, because believe me, your life doesn't go on hold just because you've got into Clean Easy, and if it does, you're not working it right. Okay, so you've got to have a balance in your life. Now, when we've done this at our team exercises, I get answers between 10 hours, 15 hours, whatever it takes, 40 hours, all sorts. But I want to be realistic in this illustration I do with you this evening. And so let's assume that you and each of your team, that's all 3,906 of you, just put in 10 hours a week. That's all. Just 10 hours a week. Very, very part-time. But the power of that is that your business is now benefiting to the tune of 39,060 hours every week. And that is something you cannot do on your own. Now let's take a look at the job scenario in the United Kingdom. Here we are in 2013. JOB, I've put it in capitals because I always say that stands for just over broke. How many of you have seen these adverts on television for these companies that charge outrageous APRs just to have a short-term loan to help people through until the end of the month? Why is that? It's because those people aren't just over broke, they are over broke. They're having to borrow month after month just to make ends meet. And they're the sort of people that we're going to be talking to share our opportunity. Now again, if we're in a around the room situation, I'd ask people to shout out, but I'm going to ask you to go along with my figures. Hopefully you'll agree with me that they're pretty realistic. If anybody out there is working in a full-time job at the moment, their full-time hours a week, well, I've chanced on 40. You know, some people working 38 hours a week, 35 hours a week. There's an awful lot of people working a heck of a lot more than that, especially if you take in commuting time. My goodness me, when I was working in London, my commuting time was phenomenal. But let's agree on somebody working 40 hours a week. Okay, so moving on from that, how many weeks would somebody work in a year? So let's just strip out annual leave, and again, you know, you're going to have different figures there, but I'm just allowing somebody here 4 weeks holiday. So they're working 48 weeks a year. And it doesn't matter whether these numbers are 47 or 46. If you go and do this exercise yourself after this evening, or you sit down and you talk to people about it, you'll see the end result is pretty similar. So what we've got now is, in a typical year, somebody is working 40 hours a week times 48 weeks in a year. That's 1,920 hours that you are exchanging for your boss for a predetermined amount of money. That's what you're doing. You're selling 1,920 hours of your time for an amount of money that you probably have no influence over whatsoever. Now here's the big question. How many years are you going to do that for? Now we say probably we talk about a 45-year plan. That's someone leaving full-time education age 20, working until the age of 65. They're putting in 45 years. But we all know what's happening to the retirement age, don't we? So again, this is what you have to think about when we're talking to people on a regular basis. And for those of you who may be looking in tonight, these are numbers that I really want you to think about and ponder as your life goes by. Because this is what they don't teach you in school. It means that somebody who is working that 45-year plan is putting in 86,400 hours in a lifetime. 86,400 hours. They never taught me that in school, that's for sure. They happen to overlook that. So let's just think about that. If we take that 86,400 hours and we divide that by the 39,060 hours which are going into your Clean Easy business that you've built on a part-time basis, up to 3,906 distributors, the answer to that sum, as you can see on the screen, is 2.2. And what that means is if you spent some spare time and it took you the next 10 years to build that organization in Clean Easy, once you've got that built, it means that every 2.2 weeks you would buy back the equivalent of a lifetime's work. Now that is powerful. John Paul Getty put it brilliantly. He said, I'd rather have the efforts of 1% of 100 people than 100% of my own efforts. And of course what that gives you is the royalty income, which comes back to what I was talking about with the Beatles and anybody else who's written successful music which sells year in, year out, year in, year out. So I hope that's kind of given you an understanding of the power of our business. And Andy was talking about the sort of checks that Clean Easy has paid us. If I tell you we've only got about 300 people in our organization, nowhere near 3,906, you can see you do not have to sponsor the world in Clean Easy to start to make a significant income. Okay, so why did I get into network marketing? Well, there were two things that brought a sharp focus to my life. I haven't got time to go into them in detail tonight. But if you get into this industry, there will be a reason. Something will happen. Okay? It might be a red demand. It might be the bailiffs at the door. It might be a redundancy. It might be any number of things. It doesn't have to be a disaster. Maybe it's just a light goes on one day and you think, hang on a minute, this isn't a dress rehearsal. We're only here once. What am I going to do? And here's a fantastic opportunity. But the first thing that brought my life into a sharp focus was this, that my first wife, Helen, died at the age of 28. She was diagnosed with a very, very, very virulent cancer which took her life in 1 year. And that pulled me up sharpish. It really did. The second thing that happened was not that long after that, my company merged and I was made redundant. Two massive life-changing things. You see, the 45-year plan that I was on, I realised wasn't guaranteed. You know, when I was growing up, we always talked about jobs for life. Jobs for life in the armed forces, in banking, in teaching, and in various professions. Hey, there are no jobs for life these days, and there's obviously no guarantee for our life either. So we might as well grasp whatever opportunities we can get and go with it 100%, because those two things that happened to me wiped out my plan for early retirement and to live happily ever after. It wasn't going to happen on that particular business model. Okay, so back to my buying your life back exercise that I've just taken you through. Now, I would quite understand if some of you are sitting out there saying, yeah, well, okay, but, you know, the theory is absolutely great, but does it work in practice? And hopefully this next slide is going to come up in a minute. Perhaps we've got our first gremlins of the evening. Just give that a second. Just thinking about it. There we go. So as I say, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, so the theory looks great, but does it work in practice? Now, some of you have seen this before with me, but a lot of you won't, so I want to take you through it and show you this in practice. What you're seeing on the screen there is one of my payslips from EMI Records. The date was 31st of August, I think that says 1994. And if you look on the bottom left-hand side, I've highlighted in blue, my take-home pay top line was £1,705. Now that was pretty good in 1994. Not bad at all. Now let me show you a snapshot of one of our Clean Easy certificates of income. Note the date 2009 and it says £6,601. Right, now I've been asking around lately about pay rises. I don't know how many of you online tonight are employed and what kind of pay rises your companies are giving you. But when I've done this in meeting situations, I've asked the question, I'm shocked to find that a lot of people tell me they're on a pay freeze and have been for some years, that some people actually have to take a pay cut, and the people who are getting pay rises are invariably less than 3%. So again, I want to be realistic with you this evening with this exercise. If I'd have stayed at EMI, if I'd not been made redundant, if I'd not sort of, left, if I'd stayed there, and let's assume things have been really good, and then I got a 3% pay rise. Remember, in 1994 it was £1,705. Well, by 2008, that would have increased to £2,578. 3% year-on-year incremental growth. Here's what's interesting. My monthly income with EMI at 3% compound growth would not have reached that 6,600 that we earned with Clean Easy until the year 2040. Even today, that's another 28 years away. That's staggering, and yet that is what people are living with, and that's the difference of what Clean Easy can offer everyone. You see, by that time I'd be age 79, and I really wouldn't want to be working age 79. And so from my perspective, the biggest thing that Clean Easy's done for me is the opportunity that I've found has already brought back over 30 years of my life, and it can do it for you too. So I just want to very quickly cover off why I chose Clean Easy as my vehicle. I looked at a lot of network marketing companies. There are some very good companies out there, and it's certainly not professional to knock, and I'm certainly not going to do that this evening. I can only talk to you about why I chose Clean Easy. The first thing was that it was a well-known brand. Okay, that gave me confidence. I was dealing with a brand name that was 78% brand recognized, and to me that was really important. As was the longevity. It was established in 1923. Well, that means this year it's 90 years old. And one of my mentors in the business, I think I've seen him online tonight, and certainly was speaking on this webinar last month, Chris Mason-Paul, once said to me, he said, you know what, Geoff, if you want to be successful with a network marketing company, get into a company, give it 10 years of hard work, and you'll be doing really well. And then he just abbreviated that and said to me, the only problem is finding a company that's going to be around for 10 years. Well, when you go and you buy something, perhaps you buy it on credit, like you buy a new carpet or a settee, and you pay nothing now, and then you take 3 years interest-free credit or whatever. The first thing the company will do is they'll have a look at your credit history, they'll have a look at your track record, and they'll make an assessment on whether they think you are safe to lend to. I did exactly that same assessment. I looked at Clean Easy. They've been around trading in profit every single year since 1923, and that made me feel confident that they're probably going to be around for another 90 years, and I wouldn't bet against that. The next thing that absolutely sold me on this opportunity was the simple way of moving product. You see, I looked at a lot of networks where you had to buy an amount of product up front, and then you had to commit to buy that every month, and then you had to move it on, sell it on to family and friends and contacts. And for me personally, that wasn't right. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to mix the business and the pleasure in that way. And I couldn't sell. I mean, working at EMI in sales was so easy, because if you got the Beatles, nobody else had. If you got Kate Bush or Queen, nobody else had, so you didn't have to sell it. It was the easiest job in the world, to be honest with you. So the simple way of moving product with catalogue distribution, with no selling involved, meant that anybody could do it. And I believe that if I was going to build a team of people who had to sell, I'd probably find that difficult. But if I could build a team of people who could move product with catalogues as it was in those days, brilliant. Now, of course, we've got full internet connectivity, and we've also got our party plan as well. So our product moves even easier, which is fantastic. This was big for me as well, that the company openly provided proof of sustained income. I sat down with a number of potential sponsors from other companies, and was met with the response when I said, well, what about income, how are you doing? And they'd said, you know what, Geoff, it's not what I'm earning that's important, it's how much you can earn. I used to think, well, no, if you're going to coach me, I need to see that you're successful. I need to see the successful people in the line of sponsorship who can coach me as well. And when I saw Clean Easy, and I sat down with my now sponsor, and I said, so how are you doing? Yeah, he's followed, and he showed me certificates of income. And his sponsor certificates of income were right up the line, and I could see it sustained year after year after year, sustained turnover, sustained proof of income, and growing income. So that was a big thing for me. What else was big for me? The low startup cost. One of the things I did between leaving EMI and getting into Clean Easy was I bought a business off the shelf from a friend of mine in the village. It was in kind of wrapping products for the jewellery and the perfume trade. It cost a lot of money. I sunk a redundancy into it, and it also had a bank loan from NatWest. So, you know, I was spending thousands to start that business. My Clean Easy business I could start for less than a good night out. Oh, and they offered me a 14-day money-back guarantee. And I just say to any of you looking at this tonight and thinking, gosh, okay, low startup, 14-day money-back guarantee, I'll give it a try. Please don't give it a try. If you're thinking of doing it for 14 days, please don't get involved. Get in, get stuck in, and make it work, and take the advice and take the coaching, okay? So, absolutely brilliant, because as I've alluded to there, the final thing was that there was no risk. There was absolutely no risk at all. When you had, when I was buying stock in for my gift wrap business, we were paying for it all up front in the January, and it arrived in the July. We had to sell it over the autumn, and the people we were supplying, the retailers, wanted 30, 60, 90 days credit. That's risk. That's scary. With Clean Easy, there's absolutely no risk at all whatsoever. Right, I did put a thing on Facebook that if anybody got any particular questions that they wanted me to cover tonight, just to send me an inbox, and I had a few questions come through, so I want to address them. I want to address this one first of all. It's one of the most commonly asked questions that I get asked, and it's this one. Isn't this a pyramid scheme? Well, you know, you can either just give a glib answer, say, no, you know, we don't sell pyramids and we never sold a pyramid, but I think we owe people a serious answer. I think we need to explain it properly. And so what I would do was I will ask them, well, what do you think a pyramid is? What do you perceive that as? And I normally find it's one of three things. One, they think that it's something where the product gets more and more expensive. So I buy a million widgets at a penny and I sell X 100,000 like 2 pennies, and they sell them at 3 pennies, and somebody ends up with a garage full of widgets which are way above market price. That is one pyramid selling. Thankfully, that's illegal. Number two is, and this was what happened in the 70s, where you just got people to sign into something, they paid a fee up front, and there was no product. There was nothing other than you signed more people in who paid, and it was, you know, it was an absolute disaster. Thankfully, that was made illegal. Most people tell me that they say, well, it's where the person at the top earns all the money. Now, you may have heard that. Okay, so I just very quickly, because I'm aware of time, I just want to whiz through this. I was talking to somebody the other day who talked about this, and I said, well, what do you do for a living? And they said to me, well, I work at one of the local supermarkets, I won't name the brand, and I work on the checkouts. I said, oh, right, okay, so are you the only checkout operator? And they said, oh, no, there's about 40 checkouts, and we have 3 different shifts operating them because we're open 24 hours. So there's quite a lot of checkout operators. And I said to her, I said, so who do you report to? And she said, oh, well, I report to a checkout supervisor. I said, right, is it just the one that covers all those shifts and all those checkouts? Oh, no, she said, no, there's several supervisors. Right, okay, so who would the supervisors report to? And she said, well, they would report to the floor manager. I said, what, just one floor manager, is it? And they said, no, there's several floor managers and they work different shifts. Okay, that's interesting. So who would the floor managers report to? And she said, well, they would report to the store manager. I said, right, presume there's only one store manager. She said, well, in our store, yes, but she says, we've got over 280 stores. So there's 280 store managers. Okay, that's interesting. So where would the store managers report? I mean, where does this thing end? She said, oh, well, there's area managers. What, just one? No, there's lots of different areas across the country. So there's several area managers as well. I said, where do you think the area managers would report to? And she said, well, they ultimately would report to the board, to the directors. And of course, there's several people who sit on the board as directors. And then, of course, the directors ultimately report to the CEO. I drew it out like this, and I said to her, that's interesting. It looks a bit like a pyramid to me. I said, no, we're nothing like that at all. Absolutely not. And it's very common that in Clean Easy, you can earn more, much more, than the person who introduces you. Now, I don't think you could get a fairer opportunity than that. So back very quickly to the questions. Is it commission only? Well, I say to people, you know, commission is really for people who are employed by a company who set them sales targets and they get a commission on that. We're not like that. We are profits. You're running a business here. So you're going to earn profits on your business and on your efforts. And as many of you will have heard Jim Rohn say, profits are better than wages. Do you have to buy your catalogues? Yes, it's a business. But guess what? They're heavily subsidised. I don't know if you've seen the latest news today, but Jackie White taught me, I should have brought a catalogue here with me, but Jackie would say to me, should I say to people, look, here's our catalogue, and if I took half a dozen sheets of paper to my library and I got them colour photocopied, they'd charge me 10p a copy. That's 60p for 6 sheets of paper. We make a contribution to our catalogues, and that contribution is about 60p. So you see, Clean Easy take the lion's share. And you know what's interesting is in all the years I've been with the company, they've never restricted me. They've never said, no, you can't have any more. And now today we've got this absolutely super package which has just been announced, the blanket drop package, where you can get 100 catalogues for £32. That's just 32p. So heavily subsidised. So we just make a contribution. What's the next one? What if there's other people in my area? Well, let me go back to the supermarket scenario. Just down the road from where I live, we have a retail park called Foss Park. On one side of the dual carriageway, we've got an Asda, and the other side, we've got a Sainsbury's. Now, they're just across the dual carriageway, and yet they both sell potatoes and beans and carrots and all sorts of things. So, how come? Well, people have brand preference. Some people prefer to shop in Asda, some people prefer to shop in Sainsbury's. And then those stores open 7 days a week. Do you know why that is? That's because not everybody does their shopping on the same day of the week. And you can find that you can put your catalogue through a door on a Thursday and somebody will come out and say, oh, I only had one of these on Monday. And yet next door, Mrs. Smith will order from your catalogue. She didn't need anything on Monday, but on Thursday she's just run out of laminate floor polish. It happens. And people will buy people. So you can influence it by being the best, being out there, being reliable, regular, being smart, and you know, just building a great business. So don't worry about that. If we're given areas, then we're restricted. Whereas we have no areas, we can go wherever we like. And then the question I get asked quite a lot is, does it really work? Well, back to what I was saying, one of my reasons for choosing Clean Easy as a vehicle is there is so much proof out there in the enterprise magazines and the Team Talk magazines, Clean Easy print turnover. It's there, it's irrefutable, it's in black and white, and we're a DSA endorsed company. And then you've got all the testimonials, video testimonials, paper testimonials with the proofs of income. So show people, let people see. That will answer their question. What else did I get asked? What support's available near me? Well, again, we as a company have events all over the country. Ask around. Look on the meetings diary. You'll find something near to you. And even if there isn't, you've got fantastic webinars like this one that Andy and Sue run for us once a month, which is available for anyone wherever they live in the country. And there's various webinars which teams run, and of course we've got our big Clean Easy events as well. So I would say you're never further away than your PC or your smartphone or your iPad or whatever from support. Okay, it's all there. Okay, and finally, my friend Auntie Hamster did this and it didn't work, so I get told that an awful lot. Do you know what? Do you know anyone who failed their driving test? Well, does that mean driving doesn't work? Of course not. You know, look, if you talk to friend, auntie or hamster, they'll have a big list of reasons why Clean Easy didn't work. And I guarantee if you look down that list, the one thing that will be missing will be their own name. It's all about personal accountability and giving it time. Okay, one thing that people struggle with a little bit is sometimes in this business you're going to get criticised. Hey, well, you know, you'll only get tackled when you're running with the ball. As you get more successful, some people will criticise you because they see the income that you're earning, and some people can't handle that very well. And I saw this fabulous quote from Zig Ziglar, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. And if you ever feel that, you know, people are having a go at you, understand this. Don't be distracted by criticism. Remember, the only taste of success some people have is when they take a bite out of you. Absolutely love that. Have that, stick that up on the wall if that helps you. Final kind of bullet points I want to whiz through very quickly are just some key principles of success. I just want to say that each of these you could do a full training on, so I'm only going to cover them off very quickly. Just write them down as bullet points. Number one is follow the system. It's essential to the success of your business. Your upline will have a successful business and a successful system. Now, you may find that you get sponsored by somebody who's brand new. Well, that doesn't matter, because the successful upline will be there to teach you and coach you in their system. And to new sponsors, encourage that with your new team. Don't say, oh no, you can't go there, no, you've got to work with me. Encourage them. You know, the more successful they are, the more successful you're going to be. So follow the system. Don't change it. Don't reinvent it, because duplication is essential. You know, if you want to go freestyle, you can build a frontline business, but you will never build a business that has depth and has strength and is a business that you can walk away from and still pays you. You have to have duplication, okay? Otherwise, you know, as soon as you walk away, the whole thing will collapse. Then give it time. You know, oh my gosh, this really does my head in. Had somebody the other week joined us up in Lincolnshire, won't name the town. She's certainly not online tonight, I think she's gone. Put out one drop of books, didn't get the return she wanted and quit. Oh wow, you know, I say 2 more brain cells that qualify for pond life. Look, give it time. Rome wasn't built in a day. We all know that. Neither is a clean, easy business. Last week, Fiona and I had the pleasure of chatting to 2 hairstylists that we were doing an appointment with. They were really bright young lasses. One was age 18, one age 19, and they were talking to us about 10-year plans, and they wanted something like Clean Easy to help them fund their own salon 10 years down the line. That was really refreshing. And I talked to them about what sort of apprenticeship hairstylists do these days, and she said, well, it's 2 years for a junior leaving school to get their initial apprenticeship. 2 years, guys. It'll take you 6 months in Clean Easy to grow a customer base, and in 6 to 12 months you can have a really good team starting to emerge. So, you know, and you're going to make money in your first month if you get stuck in, okay? What else? Very quickly, key success principle. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. I heard somebody say that in the video that was running prior to the webinar tonight. Self-education. Get into the books, get into the audios, and work hard on yourself. There's so much good material out there. We have so much to learn. And then the big one, the goals. Have goals that excite you. You know, if you've got no goals, you've got nothing to aim at. You know, imagine a Premier match without Premier football match without any goals. It's just going to be a kick around. But the goals have got to excite you. Don't adopt other people's goals. We fell into that trap some years back and our business stagnated. We had to find the goals that excite us, and you probably just over my shoulder there above the gramophone you can see that lovely picture of a black Labrador. That was one of my big goals. So get goals that really excite you. I want to just kind of finish now on back to the reality check that I started out of the real world. This was something that got posted on Facebook probably about 2 years ago now by a guy in our team called Steve Mee. Now, Steve is a fireman, and he works his Clean Easy business part-time. He's built it to a check of over £2,000, and this is what he posted. Just received a lovely unexpected letter from the fire service informing me that after 20 years I'm entitled to a gift up to the value of £125. So £125 divided by 20 means that for risking my life and being hospitalised 3 times, I'm worth £6.25 per year. Conversely, in the 6 years that I've been with Clean Easy, they've sent me on 2 luxury holidays to Cannes and Vienna. A conservative estimate would be around £3 a piece. So, Clean Easy value my services around £1,000 a year. Food for thought as I get ready for another 12-hour night shift. So, Fiona and myself and Stanley want to thank you for tuning in tonight. Those guys are downstairs, I'm up here. The business has given us many, many things. One of the most precious things that I cherish is on the days of the week when we can go up into our local deer park called Bradgate Park, and nothing more pleasurable than going there on a Monday morning and looking down on the offices of Leicester and the smoking chimney stacks of the Leicestershire industry. You see, what Clean Easy's done is, above anything else, it's freed us. It's given us complete freedom, and that is something I can't put a price on. It's given us 12 all expenses paid 5-star trips around the world. It's given us, as you've heard, an exceptional part-time income and the time to enjoy what's really, really important to us. For those of you looking in tonight, take a serious look at this. We nearly missed it some years ago because of preconceptions or the fear of putting catalogues through doors. Thank goodness we did some of that. Gives you a bit of humility, keeps your feet on the ground. I don't think there's any quality so essential to success of any kind as the quality of perseverance. To me, overcomes almost anything, even nature itself. If you're looking tonight, make the decision. I hope you make the right decision, because I can tell you from the heart, Clean Easy works, and it can work for you. Thanks ever so much for listening. It's been great to share with you tonight.